Welcome to the Descenso Zone podcast, where we talk about creativity and personal growth through a lens of curiosity and humor. My guest today is America's favorite hypnotist and winner of the 2026 Stage Hypnotist of the Year at the prestigious Performing Hypnosis Summit. His show, Hypnosis Unleashed, is the longest-running comedy hypnosis show in Las Vegas, entertaining audiences for over 15 years. We talk about his path into becoming a world-class hypnotist, the truth, craft, and ethics behind how hypnosis really works, and how everyday people can apply those same skills to their daily life. Now, let's get into the zone with Kevin Lepine. Kevin Lepine, thanks for being here. I'm super excited to talk to you.
My pleasure. Sorry, it's still Vegas. I'm highly addicted to iced tea, so this keeps me going. And living in Vegas, hydration is the biggest thing in the universe.
Hey, iced tea. Can't complain with a good bottle of iced tea, man. That's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, it was funny. I lived in New Orleans for years, and it was when I really came up with the phrase unsweetened iced tea because, oh my God, the sweet tea in New Orleans was like a glucose tolerance test. It's basically slightly tea flavored sugar.
Yeah.
So, and as a kid, that was wonderful. Like I found a place that actually served Kool-Aid here in Las Vegas, and I had like one sip and went, "Oh, that's why I could bike for miles when I was a kid."
That's hilarious. Kevin, I love that we're already going on tangents, but I just want to quickly introduce you. So you're a hypnotist, you're a comedian, and your show Hypnosis Unleashed in Las Vegas is the longest running hypnotism act in Vegas, which is
Yes.
so cool and so impressive. Over 15 years, right?
Yep, in fact, and I took it over after it had been around for a few years. So at this point, the show Hypnosis Unleashed may actually be one of the longest running hypnosis productions of all time. And the cool honor of that is I'm excited I get to do a show tonight, but I'm excited that so many people have the need to come back to experience it again. When you're a performer, you never ever make money off of one ticket sold. You never make money off of doing one gig for a client. You have a career when you do something that inspires people to want to see it again and again and bring others to come and join you.
Absolutely. I think that rings true for all sorts of creative endeavors, musicians,
Oh yeah.
comedians. It's kind of a universal truth.
It's how does your art form, whatever it is, create a bond between you and the audience?
Let's start at the beginning if we can, because I'm excited to get
Sure.
into all the nuts and bolts of it because like that's where all the cool stuff is for me. But I'm curious, like, how did you get into hypnotism in the first place? And maybe you could also just sort of outline what is hypnotism.
So there are so many misconceptions about hypnosis. I think the first person who I thought like should what hypnosis could be would have been Obi-Wan Kenobi. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Hypnosis really is just this cool state. You've already been hypnotized once today. It was when you were waking up. And it's that moment in between you being asleep and waking up when you were still like halfway in between both moments. That's that state of hypnosis, and you're going to pass through it again when you go to sleep tonight.
So it's kind of like a brainwave state where you're sort of asleep, sort of awake.
Sleep is the easiest word to describe it. The truth is, it's more of a state of focus. Have you ever meditated?
I have, yeah.
Okay, you know how when you meditate, you kind of just zone out to the universe? It's that same feeling mentally and physically, but instead of zoning out, you're actually laser focused on one concept. So much so that it resembles the state of sleep unless you are participating or creating action along with it.
And so were you always interested in hypnosis? Was that something that like as a kid you were into? And
Um, I mean, I think all of us have had some sort of questions about it at some point. It just seems so unreal, which is the beauty of one of the things I love doing in the show here in Vegas is I love showing how real it actually is. I love demystifying it because I think the more I demystify it, the more we go, oh, well, that seems fun. I did not come from a performing background at all. I grew up in Detroit. My dad was a railroad engineer, so he drove trains for a living. My mom was mostly a housewife, and I loved being on stage. It was the one place I felt comfortable. It was the one place that brought me a lot of solace. It's a place where I just always felt home. And when I was 16, I got picked up by an entertainment company to, for copyright reasons, be the purple dinosaur at your little brother's birthday party. But that got me into clowning. Clowning got me into magic. I did magic for years. Magic got me into sideshow. Sideshow got me into hypnosis. When I was 20, I got certified as a hypnotherapist because I wanted to learn how to do it right.
What does that
And
mean to get certified? Do you go to school for that? Is it a course?
in reality, it means absolutely nothing. And the reason I say it means nothing is there is no official governing board. Like there is nothing that I can do where the state of Nevada would go, we have now recognized you and licensed you as a hypnotist. All the certification means is somebody somewhere taught you and hopefully taught you well. But this was still, I mean, we're talking about 1995. So this didn't exist. And a lot of the stage performers at the time, they didn't want to teach what they were doing. They were afraid of competition. So I learned from somebody who had an office and who was, hypnotizing people every day to change their habits, overcome bad behavior, improve their lives. I knew I wanted to use it for stage, but I also knew I wanted to keep everybody safe. And now for the last 30 years, hypnosis has taken me all around the world. And the cool thing is now that we have technology like this, the world of hypnosis has opened up so much. And like I said, I was just at the Performing Hypnosis Summit, which is cool because now there's, a place where stage hypnotists all get together, not to brag, but to help each other grow and improve.
And you were named the 2026 Stage Hypnotist of the Year. Is that right?
It was an incredible honor, but so here's kind of how I view my career. It was an honor for about 10 minutes. Now it's a responsibility. And the reason it's an honor is, I mean, when you're recognized by your peer group, that feels awesome. But it also means I have to keep growing. I have to keep expanding. I have to keep doing what I can to build up my community and build up the community of truly professional stage hypnotists because there are amazing people out there. And then there are people who never got really what I feel is the right guidance, and they don't make it a memorable experience for the audience. And here's me complaining about my industry. If somebody goes to a comedy club and sees a bad comic, they'll go to the comedy club again and see a better comic. Or, if they didn't like that comic, they'll go see a comic they like. If you see a band live and you don't like that band, you'll go see another band live. If you see a bad hypnotist, you're never going to see another hypnosis show ever.
Right. It's a much more niche kind of thing, right? It's like you wouldn't think that, oh, just because I saw this band, this other band isn't going to be good. But I could see
Yeah,
how someone might think, oh, just because I saw this bad hypnotist, that there are no good hypnotists at all. And I've I've never been to Vegas, but I've seen a bunch of your clips and your shows look incredibly fun.
thank you.
They also look unbelievable in some instances where it's like, I know intuitively that you don't use actors or stooges or anything, but it just seems like,
God, I wish I could.
yeah, I mean, it would be too. I never actually think that magicians or hypnotists or anything use stooges for the most part because I feel like it would
Yeah,
just be too much to coordinate. Now with cameras, everyone would see, and I think it would be too hard.
exactly. It's why I post so many pictures of the show, is I want people to see there's different people on my stage every night. I'm performing in downtown Vegas. I am not at the Bellagio. I cannot afford to hire actors every night.
Fair enough. It just seems so crazy that it's so reliable. Like, can everyone be hypnotized? Are there ever people who don't get hypnotized in your shows?
So, a lot of the videos look a little unbelievable. Let's be honest. On the internet and on television, we've seen people fly. So, anytime you see advertising or marketing, you do have a lot of questions for it. I'm going to pick two or three moments that you didn't necessarily see the build up for that amazing moment to happen. Um, That's what I don't like about a lot of hypnosis videos is people start saying how they can hypnotize anybody right now. And you see these great videos of people entering hypnosis, but you don't see the 2 or 3 minutes that led up to that moment. So it creates a lot of miscommunication. It really does. But it's also everybody can be. Not everybody will be on stage. If I get 12 volunteers, I'm probably going to keep about seven, maybe eight. You're on stage, you're uncomfortable, the lights are on you, people are staring at you. For some people, they are just not going to feel comfortable enough to listen to me. And when somebody is not comfortable enough to be up there and they don't enter the state of hypnosis, I mean, of course, we send them back down. You're not hypnotized. You're not going to have fun up here if you're not hypnotized. But there is one amazing fact about everybody I send back as well. Do you know what the number one fear in the world is?
Stage fright.
It's public speaking.
Yeah.
Um, I believe it was Jerry Seinfeld who said number one fear is public speaking, number two is death. Most people at a funeral would rather be in the coffin than giving a eulogy.
Yeah.
So the fact that you walked up on my stage at all and even tried is such an awesome thing because you stepped out of your comfort zone into an uncomfortable situation. And whether you were one of my stars for the night or whether you were sent back to the audience, I find it amazing for everybody who volunteers. And that's why I want to make it a good experience for them.
Yeah, stepping out of your comfort zone is a recurring theme on this podcast. It's the reason I ask that question at the end for every single one of my podcasts because I do think it's important. I do think it's commendable for people to do that, to just try something new, to be okay with failure, to, give things a
Yeah.
shot,
Except I don't think people know what it means to step out of a comfort zone. I think that's become such a cliche. And I think we've turned the phrase step out of your comfort zone and just mean try something you don't like, um, do something because these other people are doing it. I don't think that's what that means.
What does it mean to you?
Stepping out of your comfort zone isn't going, oh, I want to be this great big artist. Stepping out of your comfort zone is going, hey, local person, or hey, internet person, you seem to be a first step for me to take. I, I think a lot of stepping out of your comfort zone, you're not stepping out of your comfort zone, you're stepping up into something else,
I love,
if that makes sense.
yeah, it totally makes sense. I love that. I love that idea of, taking a small step towards something and stepping outside of what you would normally do, right? I
Yeah,
think
because
that's what I tried to do with this podcast, and I know that that's what a lot of performers have to do. I've interviewed
very much
comedians and
so.
writers and all sorts of people who have to, get on stage or
Well,
perform or
do you know the Richard Pryor and George Carlin? Both of them, independently and a couple years apart, were on a stage, dropped the mic, and walked off stage and disappeared for a while. Both of them had a moment where they looked at the crowd and themselves and went, this isn't what I want to do. Richard Pryor, literally in Vegas, dropped the mic on the stage at the Aladdin and walked away from a really good paying contract. Basically went to San Francisco for about 6 months and came back as the Richard Pryor we all know and love. George Carlin had that same story where they had to step away and go, you know, I started on this path, and I'm not going to say that any performer's path is easy, but I walked on the performer's path following this clear path that other people had put in front of me. These two went, I'm not here to be on this well-traveled road. I need to change the road. I need to change the map. I need to create a new destination. And honestly, they changed the voices of the world.
Two of the greatest comedians of all time. George Carlin, in particular, for me, was a huge influence. I think on my own philosophy, but also his comedy was just so funny, but it was also poignant and meaningful. And
What did
uh,
you think of his last couple of specials?
the last couple were dark. He got, as he got older, he got a little darker. But I mean,
Nope.
some of my favorites were like Jamming in New York and
Here's the
uh,
thing, he didn't get darker.
okay,
Here's the problem with Carlin's last couple of specials. I read somewhere that said every revolution is doomed to fail. And it's doomed to fail for two reasons. Reason one, the establishment beats you. Reason two, you win. Now you're the establishment. The seven dirty words you can't say on TV, you can say them now.
that's true.
The rebel won. The rebel became the establishment, and he hated that. The last couple of specials were him trying to find more ways to rebel, more
Mm.
ways to not be the establishment, more ways to shake people and go, don't follow the machine. And it's hard.
Wow, man, that's a really cool take. I've never thought of it that way, but that makes so much
Yeah.
sense.
The rebel won. The rebel was the establishment, and that was not the position he wanted. Do you know who the amazing Jonathan was?
I've seen just some
Comedy
like
magician.
clips of him. Yes.
He was he was one of my favorites. And when I moved here to Vegas, fortunately, he became one of my dearest friends. His prized possession, and he moved this to every bit of media he ever had, so he never lost it. Carlin came to a show one night and tried to call him after, but Jonathan's phone was off. So he has this amazing voice recording of George Carlin praising his act. He's like, there is no other compliment. This is it. It's never going to get better than George Carlin saying, God, I think you're funny.
I'm a big fan of comedy and magic in general. I love Darren Brown.
I hate Darren Brown.
Oh, interesting.
He's one of the few people that I will ever loathe. He was on
Why?
Sherlock, and I never will be. And I refuse to be jealous of anyone, but damn it, he was on Sherlock. You know what? I'm always going to loathe that guy. I mean, hey, look, I never had a shot to be on Sherlock, but it doesn't matter. He was. And man, I loved that show.
And one of the things that he talks about that I found really interesting is different kinds of inductions. And I wonder if we can get into maybe some of the mechanics of
Yeah.
some of the inductions. Like, for instance, I know there's something called a handshake induction, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea is you go to shake someone's hand and you at the last minute sort of move your hand or change it so that it sort of interrupts this automaticity of like shaking a hand. And in so doing, it somehow makes them more suggestible.
Sort of. If you were to walk up to a stranger and attempt to do that with almost 99.9% accuracy, I would tell you it's never going to happen. There are styles of hypnosis. The most common style is what's called progressive muscle relaxation, where you're just helping a person relax into that state. There's a couple of points of view. Some say it's a relaxed state. Some say it's overloading the nervous system to create kind of a frozen response. Every induction is a tool in a box. It really is. But the most powerful induction into the state of hypnosis is for the participant to accept that you're a hypnotist.
Oh, interesting. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way where you know that you're on a hypnotism show and you know that this person's a professional hypnotist and
I got into a, let's just say, spirited philosophy disagreement with somebody where I challenged them to put their money where their mouth was because they said they could hypnotize anybody in 5 seconds. As soon as they put up their money, I said, okay, me. And of course, I don't want to go under at that point, so I'm not going to. Give them double or nothing. My wife. Give you a chance to get your money back again. That waitress with a full tray of drinks. So all these people had no desire to be hypnotized. And I said, all right. And he kind of pointed to somebody at a bar. And I said, yes, Go for it, that person. And he went up to her and said, hello, my name is, and then I went time. And when I haven't started yet, I said, no, you said anyone in 5 seconds. You're introducing yourself. You're telling people what you do. You are doing everything you can so that when you get to that 5 second part, they are ready to want to go on this journey with you, which means you needed a minute or two before you got to that 5 seconds, which means that minute or two is important.
So that first minute is almost kind of like setting the tone of the fact that you're a hypnotist and that they're, getting their buy-in
Yes. Yep.
on doing this and being okay with doing it. Because I feel like it sounds like if you want to resist, you
There's
it
no
you
resisting. If you
can.
don't want to do it, you're not going to do it.
Right.
It's that simple. I can't look at you and go, relax and listen to me. To put it in a semi-vulgar manner, if somebody walked up to you on the street and asked you to drop their pants while they were putting on a rubber glove, you're probably not going to do it. But you go to a doctor's office and they tell you to, you will.
Right.
When you put yourself in a frame of mind that says, I'm going to give this person the opportunity to show me their professionalism for whatever reason. There's been so many of these videos of like the world class championship violin player who is playing Radio City Music Hall tonight, and the tickets are $300 a piece. And he goes to the subway, and most people don't even throw change into his case. And it's not that he's any better or worse than the subway, but you don't value that person you see in the subway. You don't know why you're supposed to value them. You don't know why you should take time out of your day to stop and listen.
Right. It's kind of like an authority thing. If you see someone on stage, you've paid $300 a ticket, you know they're going to be good.
Yep.
But if
Now,
you,
granted, I charge $34 a ticket, but yes,
well, there you go. I guess the buy-in from the audience member will hinge on how confident you are as a performer. Because if you're
it
stumbling
does.
over yourself and you look nervous or unconfident, then it would be much easier for them to go, "This guy's not it."
It depends. And what I mean by it depends is who's funnier, George Carlin or Jerry Lewis? George Carlin, who is always in control, Jerry Lewis, who looked like he was falling apart at any given second.
It
However,
depends. It depends. It's
yeah, if you can portray yourself in a way that people want to and accept, you could be that character if it works for you in the audience. But you're right, the prestige means a lot. If I got paid by how hard a show was, tonight I'd make $1 and my first show would have cost $300,000. Because those first shows, you don't know how to position yourself as somebody that everybody should stop and watch. And that's the skill, is learning to build that respect and rapport with a crowd and learning to build it for yourself.
And I'm sure that comes with time as you do many, many shows. You build that muscle, right? You build that ability to connect with the audience and know what to do if something goes wrong or how to
Or you
shift
get worse.
gears. Or you get worse, but typically I would imagine the more people do something, the better they get.
Nope. Practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. I've been a performer for 30 years. I've done a lot of niche things. And in those niches, people come up to you and go, wow, that was amazing. You're the best. Well, how many things in this niche have you seen before? Well, none, but you were amazing. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. But in your world, I'm 1 out of 1. I have to look at everybody's response. I have to be able to look at an audience and not just go, who loves me? I have to be able to go, who's disinterested? And now, stepping out of the comfort zone. As a performer, you can sit in a comfort zone, but you're not going to grow. You're not going to grow your audience. You're not going to grow your reputation. until you step out of that box and go, 60% of tonight's crowd loved me. Why didn't I engage the other 40% as well? So many, I try and teach access all the time. When you're a solo performer, you're a writer, producer, director, marketing manager, booking agent, and performer. It's hard. You need to find people you trust. You need to find people who understand your goal and the message you're trying to get out. And you need to hire people to help you do these things. You need to collaborate with performers. Here in Vegas, I'm lucky I get to collaborate with amazing people who all want each other to be the best we can be.
And your wife is one of the people you collaborate with. She is works on your show with you. Is that right?
Not only does she work in my show, she is the lead in another show in town and the assistant director for that show. It's a murder mystery show called Marriage Can Be Murder. That show has been around longer than I have even, and they're still going strong. She also does a children's show based on teaching kids social emotional learning and how to confront your own negative self-talk. She's found a way to teach children about when they start saying bad things about themselves, how to reframe and get help instead of wallowing in that moment, which I
That's
think a lot of adults could use as well.
absolutely that's incredible. And it sort of speaks to my next question. I wondered what your take on self-hypnosis is. Is that something that the average listener could do or should be doing to themselves? And what benefit or risks are there to doing that?
There are no risks, none. Like I said, it's no different than meditation. It's the same feeling, it's the same brain waves, but it's about focus instead of release. There's a very well-regarded train of thought that says all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, which is true to an extent because you choose to go on that journey with me. As a hypnotist, the philosophy in that point of view is as a hypnotist, I'm really a tour guide, just kind of leading your mind to this destination. But there are plenty of people who don't just fall asleep at night. And it's funny, some advice I give to people who suffer insomnia is people tell you, well, just clear your mind. Doesn't work. Not for all of us. For some people, we have to world build. Like we almost have to create our dream before we fall asleep. Because when you create that dream, you're pushing out all of these other things. And it's finally allowing you to get to that state. So yes, we all use self-hypnosis, and we are all influenced by other people putting thoughts in our head. There was something I remember as a child. You go to the grocery store, you see Oreos, and you see store brand Oreos. Oreos have spent all of this money to tell you Oreos are great. The store brand, the store brand is cheaper, and they're pretty much identical. But you buy the Oreos. So the suggestions have won, which is also something that I think is really, really important in our modern society. I'm going to get a little political for a second.
Sure.
The media's job is not to report the news. The media's job is to sell advertising. The second a show has a commercial on it, that show's job is to sell ad space, period. That's it. In the last 25 years, there's been a big philosophical change. The philosophical change, the philosophy 25 years ago, sex sells. You know what sells better?
Controversy.
Anger and fear.
Yeah.
Everything is slanted to sell ad space and to attract a certain demographic who will buy the product of the advertiser.
Is that a level of self-hypnosis as well where
It is a level of hypnosis. It's a level of continually getting this message of anger and fear, anger and fear, anger and fear, anger and fear. So my advice to everybody now is if you want to improve your mindset, understand that real news, things happening in the world, things happening in your community are important. But the second you find yourself going to a specific place, and social media is one of these places, as soon as you find yourself going to a place and getting information that only makes you angry, you need to stop going to that source for information.
I want to ask you about something because there's so much to unpack there. I want to ask you about something that you touched on just a minute ago about
Hmm.
insomnia, because that's something that I suffer with, and that's something that
Just get a good night's sleep.
yeah, no problem,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But I wonder if you could like expound upon this idea of world building. What did you mean by world building?
Okay. So people think that the only way to relax is to attempt to clear your mind. The thought is the way to relax is just kind of turn your brain off and let yourself kind of just go into that void. For some of us, that doesn't work. But if you're laying in bed and you start imagining that you're in an Avengers movie and you world build that, you world build all of the other heroes that are there with you. You world build this gigantic fantasy scenario and you keep building it and building it and building it, which sounds really similar to a daydream. What you're actually doing in that moment is you're not telling your brain, I don't want to think about work. I don't want to think about bills. I don't want to think about problems. Because as soon as you say, I don't want to think about something, it's all you're thinking of. But as soon as you go, I'm going to think of all of these things instead, what you're doing is you're turning down the volume on everything else so that your brain stops functioning on that level of discomfort, anxiety. Instead of your mind focusing on that, your mind is focusing on this ridiculous world you're building to the point of where it eventually just can't think of other stuff.
And should it be something of particular interest to you? Like you mentioned the Avengers movies. Like if someone
Yeah,
loves those movies, it should be that. But if someone loves, you know, knitting, should they think about themselves knitting? Or like, does it have to be a big, like, world kind of?
I recommend it being something that takes you out of where you actually are. So imagine not that you're knitting, imagine you're knitting in this fantasy place. This, come up with a like pre-dream about knitting, in the hills of France or Ireland, and who you're going to meet there and what's going to be around there. I don't recommend fantasizing about being in a restaurant
Makes you
because,
hungry?
yeah, and that'll get you out of bed for the wrong reasons.
That's funny. I'm definitely going to try that. I think that's a interesting way to cure insomnia that I've never heard before. So definitely worth a shot.
It can help.
You mentioned you went to a hypnotherapist to learn it the right way.
Hmm.
Is there a wrong way? In other words, could someone get stuck in hypnosis?
No one can get stuck in hypnosis. The only thing that would happen if I put you under and had a heart attack and died, you would wake up because your conscious mind never actually shuts off. As soon as your conscious mind is aware that something is wrong, its natural instinct will be to immediately see what's going on around you. Or you just actually fall asleep and wake up when you're not tired anymore. When I say people have been trained wrong, there are people who believe hypnosis is about their own ego. They believe hypnosis is something that gives them power. If I had to sum up hypnosis in one word, it would be cooperation. You want to go on a journey that I can take you on. We're going to do this together. Some people are so insecure in who they are that they're desperately looking for a way to feel powerful. And they think that this is an avenue that gives them power or authority over people. And that's what I think is wrong.
A question that just naturally would occur to me to ask a hypnotist would be, can you use these skills in your daily life to your benefit in some way?
Yes. Oh, yes, but only the right way.
Like, in other words, you couldn't go to a bank teller and be like, make me, take out $1 million. Like,
No,
right.
that I can't do. But understanding hypnotic language makes it a lot easier to influence people because people want to be influenced
In what way?
every way.
Sure, but understanding hypnotic language helps you influence people how?
So there's two ways to do it. There is the dumb way, where the dumb way is you learn all about these techniques and all about this language, and you start trying to utilize it to influence people, and you look like a clown, and you look insincere, and nobody respects you. Or you learn all of these things, and you look at a person as a person, and you find a way to empathize with them and their situation. You find a way to find common ground with them. And then you find yourself making connections with people. Then you become the person who walks into a restaurant and everybody knows who you are because they want to know who you are. You become somebody who is known for not causing conflict, but resolving it peacefully. And the more you understand that, the more you understand the power of your words, the more you realize you can use those words to make somebody's day miserable or somebody's day better.
So you're sort of saying that this knowledge of hypnosis allows you to connect with people more easily, whereas the dumb way, as you say, is more like, would you say it's more like you always hear about these neurolinguistic programming tricks and things you can do, and mirroring, where you do the same body language as your date so that they like you, and all these weird things like that. That's all baloney. Is
What do you do besides the podcast?
I write for the most part. I've also
Okay.
worked in television as well. So
This is perfect. TV and film is the easiest example in the world. Have you ever watched somebody try to network with people
a million
and
times.
do
Yes,
it on the most insincere level humanly possible?
of course. Yeah,
And then you saw that extra, and the extra showed up early, and the extra said please and thank you. And the extra was there for all of their marks, were there for all of everything, made no waves, thanked everybody, was polite to everyone. And then all of a sudden they have a line or two. And then that person with the line or two gets called back for some other work. And then eventually that person becomes an actual force in that world. And then you get the talent who shows up and they're fake and they're insincere. And this is a talent that you look at that you go, oh man, this person could go through the roof. And after 10 minutes of being around him, you go, wow, this person's never going to go anywhere.
yeah. I've definitely seen both sides of that coin, uh, and in my experience, you can get further ahead by being kind and respectful and doing the right things. But I've seen a lot of jerks in high level positions too.
Yes, but they don't last. Few last. Very few last. Because when you network sincerely, when you approach people sincerely, you're building a real connection. When you do it the other way, and I have fallen, I have stumbled, I've had 100 hands grab me and lift me up. I have watched people who are unkind make the smallest of slip, and everybody just kicks them down. We're all going to have slips. We're all going to slide.
Absolutely. And I do think that in general, being kind and being authentic is the move.
Problem with the NLP stuff is so many people do it on an insincere level.
In other words, to manipulate people.
Yes,
Right.
people know when they're being influenced. People know when they're being, people eventually know when they're being manipulated. But people can also They won't be able to put their finger on it. They won't be able to sum it up, but they know when somebody else is being insincere.
You have like a bullshit
Mhm.
detector in some way.
Very, very much so. And even if the bullshit detector doesn't go off fully, you still walk away knowing that wasn't authentic.
You keep talking about something that I wanted to touch on, this idea of cooperation in hypnotism and this
Mhm.
idea of that the participant is coming along on this ride with you and you're
Yes,
sort of a willing participant in this ride.
very much so.
I wonder about that because it is that just at the hypnosis stage? Because once they are under hypnosis, it really feels like you are leading that.
I
Uh,
am leading it, but I'm leading it down a very specific road. Your conscious mind never shuts off. Your sense of self-preservation never shuts off. When you volunteer to be in a hypnosis show, if you came to me because you wanted to quit smoking, and I tell you you're going to be Britney Spears, you would wake up. It wouldn't make sense to you. When you volunteer to be part of a show, you know I'm going to ask you to do some silly things. You consciously know that. As long as I don't do anything that violates you, and violates a weird word because you can take it from the minimum to the maximum extremes. As
yeah.
long as I make sure that you're in a place where you feel good about what you're doing, we're gonna want to we're gonna want to do that. If I make you feel uncomfortable, you're not gonna go under.
One example that comes to mind, I've seen a clip of, and you probably know what I'm talking about, Howie Mandel, a notorious germaphobe who gets hypnotized on, I think, America's Got Talent. And he's hypnotized to shake a bunch of people's hands, which he would normally never do. It feels a little bit, I don't know if unethical is the word, but it's like they're clearly doing something that is violating, to use your term.
Okay, I know the hypnotist who did that. He is a really, really good guy. It's television. I haven't talked to him on this level about this, but anything you're going to do on TV has to go through how many producers? You worked in television. If I said, I'm going to do this with your host, how many people have to say yes to that first?
A lot.
Could you spring a surprise suggestion on a host in television? Or would the host always have an idea about what they're going to be asked to do?
I imagine the host would usually have an idea what they're being asked to do.
I don't know how pure that moment was. Because if a producer walked up to Howie Mandel and said, we have a hypnotist coming on, he's going to hypnotize you. And he's going to hypnotize you to do this. And if Howie said, yeah, sure, give it a shot, it's the problem with, first of all, there are no truly X-rated hypnosis shows. They'd be illegal. And you wouldn't follow those suggestions. But if I told you you're going to an X-rated show and asked to do X-rated things, and you walked up on stage knowing you would be doing those things, then consciously you've already said, I will go on that journey with you. Do you see where I'm going with this?
I
If
do.
Howie Mandel at all said, I will attempt to go on that journey, I will give this person the opportunity to try to take me on that journey, is very different than, I don't know this journey is going to happen. I don't know I want to be part of this journey. I don't know that I want to do this.
It's a weird one for me because I'm like, the idea of helping a germaphobe overcome this thing through hypnosis is a cool idea. It's the same way
It
with
very
smoking.
is.
It's the same idea
And
with smoking, right? But at the same time, I don't know that I buy just because, I mean, I don't know Howie Mandel, but he is so infamously won't shake people's hands that I
right.
can't buy that like a producer was like, hey, he might try and get you to shake hands. Are you okay with that? And he was like, sure, let's give it a shot. Like, I don't think he would agree to that, you know?
But did he halfway agree to it because he didn't think it was going to work?
Maybe.
You see what I'm saying? It's just when you're looking at that scenario, there are so many what ifs. And so with hypnosis, curing a phobia, quitting smoking, losing weight, the first question is, does the participant really want to get rid of that bad behavior, or does the participant take value from that behavior? People don't want to change if something is 51% bad for them. People traditionally won't change until it's over 90% bad, less than 10% useful.
Right. So, for example, like a smoker gets value out of smoking because even though it's
Yes,
bad for them, it relaxes them. It's a social thing. Whatever value they're getting
it
from
gets
that.
them out of work.
Right.
They can go and
Right.
take a smoke break. It gets them out of negative conversations. It gets them out of social situations they want an excuse to get out of. It gives them a lot of things.
And so if they don't see that value proposition as being negative enough, then hypnosis won't work on them.
Nope, because they still want to smoke.
Interesting.
Until you really want to change the behavior because you understand that the behavior is worse than the benefit, you're never really going to change.
Yeah, so I guess that's sort of was the core of my question is this idea that like yes, they need to be a willing participant on the journey, but you can once they've agreed to go on this journey with you, what they're doing is sort of
But
not in their control anymore.
there's also a difference between state change and lasting change.
Can you describe?
Yes, state change is we're going to do something tonight where in this moment you're going to have this reaction. Now, at the end of the show, the suggestions are removed. And when you go to bed at night, that's what you do in REM is you get rid of stuff that you don't need to keep. That's state change. It's only going to work in this specific moment. Lasting change is when you want to change a behavior, when you want to keep that behavior modified. So on stage, I'm doing state change. With Howie Mandel, it was state change. This in this one moment is going to work. This suggestion is going to work. It's going to do this. I don't remember what the full suggestion was, but as a hypnotist, if I was going to do that with somebody and they had agreed to let me do that, the hypnotic suggestion wouldn't be that you're going to shake this person's hand. The suggestion would be, you believe you're wearing these magical invisible gloves. And because you think you have these magical invisible gloves on, it's fine to shake someone's hand.
Yeah, it was something to that effect as well.
Yep, state change. In that moment, you believe this, but that moment's not going to last indefinitely.
Right. So is there a way then to get that lasting change? Like
And a lasting change event means you want to go to see somebody about this behavior.
let's say I am someone in that position. Let's say I'm a smoker and I want to quit
Hmm.
smoking. I come to you or any hypnotist. Are they doing something different? Like, are you still just putting them in this state of focus and relaxing them
Yep.
and then suggesting to them that they no longer need to smoke? Is that the idea?
I am going to suggest to them things they want to do more than smoking, things that are more important, things that they can focus on. Plus, I'm going to give them daily exercises that they can work on. I'm going to give them things that they can do on a moment to moment, hour to hour daily basis to reinforce the behavior you want versus the behavior you've had. So there also has to be action taken on the participant's part to create a lasting change.
Gotcha. So it's not just a magical do as I say. It's really a two-person.
It's a tool in a box.
Mhm.
You're going to come to me, and my job as a hypnotist isn't to just use my tools. My job as a hypnotist, if I'm doing it on the therapy side, is to use my tools to give you tools to get you where you want to be.
What about on the stage side? Like I've seen a lot of your clips and
Mhm.
I wonder if you could just talk through some of the things that you might typically get an audience member to do on stage and how you induct them in the first place.
So I use an induction that's been copied quite a bit now because I call it the kitchen sink induction because it's designed to hit the most amount of people on the most amount of levels. And then when I put them into a situation, like I think there's some clips of me out there doing a moment where people think napkins are $100 bills. But the setup behind that is the idea that these aren't just napkins. They're also $100 bills. Now, people will perceive that on stage in a couple of different ways. Some people will say that they saw money. Some people will say that they thought the napkins were worth $100. Some people will say, I knew it wasn't money. I just knew I had to have as many of those as I possibly could. Your mind and your subconscious find a rationale for why in that moment this makes sense to you. And then
Oh,
I've had people go, oh, this doesn't make sense to me at all. Okay, great. Thank you for giving this a shot. We're going to send you back into the audience now.
that's so interesting that there's multiple layers of understanding around this idea, whether it's actual money or just worth a certain amount of money. Does anyone, have you ever got someone who just was like playing along, but you could tell they weren't really hypnotized?
If they're playing along, on one level, I appreciate what they're trying to do. On another level, I know that they're not going to do the things I need them to do in order to make sure everybody's going to be safe. So if I truly don't believe that they're under, I'll send them back down into the audience because it'll make for a better show for me if the people on stage are really hypnotized.
For sure. What would be unsafe about it, though?
Okay, if you were on my stage and you weren't hypnotized and you just decided you were going to do what you wanted to do when I make this, whatever the suggestion is, I should have people on very, very specific rails. I make sure nobody can fall out of their chairs. I make sure nobody can crash into each other. I make sure nobody can hurt each other. I make sure physically that you're always taken care of. But if you're not under, you're going to do it the way you want to do it, not the way I'm telling you to do it. And now all of a sudden, if you decide you're going to do something the opposite of the way that I asking you to do it because you think it'll be funnier, you may move yourself into a position where you could get hurt or somebody around you could. And I'm just not going to let that happen.
Has there ever been a surprising thing to happen on stage? Or
Every night it's different people, it's different scenarios, it's different personalities, it's different mentalities. You see people take things in amazing directions, and that's what makes the show fun for me because every night something new is going to happen.
not to go back to your enemy, Darren Brown, but one clip that sticks out in my mind is that after one of his live shows, he did this bit about how no audience member would remember what happened at his show.
Mhm.
And you watch that and then you just see people come out and they're just like, I don't remember what happened. And it's like nobody remembers what happened. And you kind of are just watching that as just like a viewer and you're like, is this like, do I buy this? Like, are these people just, did they just slip them like
It's
50 bucks?
it's always hard to believe what you see on TV. That's why I tell people come and see it live. It's a whole different experience.
So do you think that that's possible? Do you think you could get someone to forget your whole show?
You could, if they were a volunteer, yeah, sure. But they'll still eventually remember bits and pieces. They'll put it back together. I
Gotcha.
don't like that particular routine with a participant, only because I'm not going to say either of us have ever drank so much that we've blacked out. I'm just going to say we both know somebody who has. It's not a good feeling. Not knowing what you did for a time period doesn't make you feel good, and I want you to feel great when you walk off my stage.
How do you ensure that? Because I so much of hypnotism that I've seen has been around this idea of making people unsure. Like, for instance, another clip I saw, I don't think it was Darren Brown, it was someone else, but he's on a subway and he makes people forget their stop.
Again, you're talking about TV.
But you
It's
think that's like made
video.
up?
P.T. Barnum, man.
Yeah.
There's truth in there and there is advertising. Never the two shall meet. There is truth and there is television. Never the two need to be acquainted.
So you think those are all just like
What
staged?
I'm saying is you don't see everything that leads up to that,
Right, right. Okay.
and you don't see everything that comes after that. When you come to Hypnosis Unleashed, when you see the show at the Four Queens, you get to see the entire process. And you get to see what happens when they go in, and you get to see what happens when they react live, and you get to talk to them after to really understand what their experience is. But to compare anything we see on TV, here's the biggest problem with what you're asking right now. Did you ever see David Copperfield?
Just clips.
Have you ever seen the clip where David Copperfield flies?
Yes.
What does he do when he flies?
I don't remember the clip.
Okay, the reason I'm bringing this up is I've had people describe Copperfield flying, and here's how they describe it. He's standing in the middle of the stage. He levitates into the air, flies into the audience, gets an audience member, and they fly through a hoop with him on the stage, and then he puts her back into the audience and then lands on stage. Does that sound about right?
Gosh, I don't remember the clip, but I would believe that that could be.
That's never once happened.
Okay.
What's happened is Copperfield has been on stage, flew up through a hoop. An audience member was brought on stage, and he lifted her up with him to a limited extent through a lower hoop, put her down, and sent her back into the audience. Do you see how I just described the exact same thing, but I gave you two very different versions of what actually happened?
Right. So you're sort of saying that the
That
collective
we
memory of the audience
remember
could be
things.
exaggerated. Yeah.
We remember things in a bigger way, or we will describe things in a bigger way. That is very much most of what you hear from people is based on a true story. But when we're talking about memories, memories get mixed in with emotions. And when memory and emotions come together in a positive way, that story expands. I want to do the opposite of that.
You
I want
okay.
to make something so fun for my participants and my audience members that there is a moment where you in the audience are watching me at the Four Queens Hotel, and you're watching Hypnosis Unleashed, and you see what a person is doing, and you go, I should have done that. I should have gone up there. I should have volunteered. I want to be part of this experience next time. If I can make it a fun experience for the volunteers and the audience together, it's a great experience. But I don't want to create an experience where people feel that they have to overblow that experience. Because when you come and see me, if you tell your friends and family that I'm doing some impossible things, and then they come to see me to see this impossible thing, I can't live up to that impossible thing.
For my listeners, one of the things I try to do is bring them value. And I think
Yeah,
you've already expressed a lot of areas of value, but I wonder in
thank you.
particular if there's a way an average person who maybe doesn't have this kind of specific hypnotic training,
Mhm.
is there anything that they could do for anxiety, performance, like personal growth? Like, is there anything that they can do on a daily basis without having all this training?
Yes, go see a therapist. It's great. They can help put you on a path for a lot of things. But my personal advice that I tell people a lot is never focus on what you don't want to do. I don't want to smoke. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. As soon as you start thinking about what you don't want to do, your brain doesn't hear the don't. It just hears do this. Instead, find something you enjoy thinking about more than that activity. Simplest way to explain how your brain works on the count of three, whatever you do, don't think of a pink and purple elephant. One, two, three. And you have no choice. That elephant jumps in your head.
Of course.
But if I say on the count of three, think of anything you enjoy more than elephants, you can think of a million things. Never focus on what you don't want, focus on things that you do.
I think that's great advice. I wonder what about like someone who's maybe about to go into a job interview or about to, you know, go on a first date or something. Like, so if they're in a situation where they're nervous, is there a way you can self-hypnotize yourself into a state of calm?
Yes, but is that what you want to be? Do you want to be calm in that job interview? Do you want to be calm on that date? Or do you want to ask yourself, what about me do I want to share with people that make people want to be around me? And it goes back to what we were talking about way earlier. How do you want to influence somebody? You're at a job interview. How do you want to put the best you forward? It's not about being calm always. It's not about relaxing. It's about how do you want to influence those people around you?
Yeah, so you're sort of reframing it to be like, how do you want to portray yourself? How do you want to add value and connect with this person, as opposed to being like,
In
okay, I
a
need to take 3
sincere and,
breaths.
yep, in a sincere and authentic manner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I used to do stand up and perform on in theaters where I started my career when I was a kid. And I would get nervous. I would get very, very nervous until like I got the first laugh or
Hmm.
the first I said my first line, or there was something that once that happened, it all evaporated for me. All the
Yeah.
nervousness, all that tightness, all that, and there was nothing I could really do beforehand to make that go away. I just had to sit in it, and then once I got past that little hurdle,
I
it went
I
away.
just reframe it. I've never been nervous. I've always been energized. I'm not
Mm.
going to take nervous energy. I'm going to take that energy and turn it into enthusiasm.
I love that. I love the positivity.
It's
Well,
hard to do sometimes, but it's the only way to do it.
I totally agree with you. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'd like to end the
My greatest
podcast.
pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. I like to end the podcast by asking about a time you stepped outside of your comfort zone. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Every day. Because every day I'm going to be dealing with people I've never met before. But at one of the lowest times in my life, at a time when I was wrecked, at a time when I had every reason to withdraw, I reached out to create connections. And those connections allowed me to create friendships and to grow.
Social connections are so important, aren't they?
They are. We need a positive community around us.
Well, I'm very glad to have made one more social connection today in you. And Kevin, thank you, man.
My pleasure.
That was really awesome.